For today's Grimm adventure, we find ourselves in Colma, California, where in 1924, this city was created as a necropolis to San Francisco. It's a city of the dead. There are actually more people in Colma dead than there are alive. Before we start exploring the cemetery and searching out some of the famous graves that are buried here in Colma, I kind of want to tell you a little bit about how Colma came to be. It's a very interesting, at the same time, kind of morbid story. Again, Colma was created as a necropolis in 1924 to the city of San Francisco. Before that, the city had a bit of a problem with where they were going to bury the dead. It became even more of a problem whenever a plague hit and people were just dying and they didn't have anything or anywhere to put people. I mean, I think to this day there's maybe 2, maybe 3 different cemeteries in San Francisco itself, and San Francisco is massive, so they had to create some place to bury the loved ones. We are starting this video off inside a chapel of one of the 17 different cemeteries here in Colma. Now, to put things into perspective, when we rode into town, the sign that said Colma, now entering Colma, population, it said 1,678. There's over 1.5 million people buried here. That's a lot. This is definitely not a place you want to be if a zombie apocalypse ever happened.
Wherever I come, bad luck is coming my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. Bad luck's always coming my way.
There are 17 cemeteries here in Colma, the necropolis, the city of the dead. And the first one that we're going to visit is the Hills of Eternity Cemetery, which is the final resting place of legendary lawman Wyatt Earp. Now, if you've seen the movie Tombstone, Kurt Russell played him in that movie. Amazing movie, one of my all-time favorites. Kurt Russell played Wyatt Earp, and Doc Holliday was played by Val Kilmer, another favorite actor of mine. The cemeteries here are so massive, thank goodness that they gave us a map. It was a pretty easy to read map, and it led it right to the final resting place of Wyatt Earp. Right here, look at that. It says Earp right there in the banner, Wyatt Barry Stapp. I think that's how you say his last name, 1848 to 1929. Buried right next to his wife, Josephine. She died in 1944. Says that nothing so sacred as honor and nothing so loyal as love. Now here's a look at some of the things that people have left when they come to visit them. Oh, and check it out, there's a Marshall badge. After the gunfight at the OK Corral, Wyatt Earp pretty much retired. He moved out here to California, met up with Josephine, they got married, and they spent pretty much the rest of their lives living their best life. Now, here's a little interesting side note. Wyatt Earp is actually buried in a Jewish cemetery, and he wasn't even Jewish. Now, the story goes, after he died, his wife Josephine begged and pleaded with her father to have Wyatt Earp buried here, and he was having none of it. Eventually, he gave in. Wyatt Earp was cremated, and it's his ashes that are here buried in the ground. Interesting. That giant domed mausoleum right there, that's for Levi Strauss. You know, Levi jeans. Now, we've all seen inside mausoleums before, but there's just something extra special about this one. Look at it. Look how beautiful that is. Now, here's something you don't really see every day. Well, I mean, you see portraits on tombstones, but these ones are just beautiful. I love the whole aesthetic of this stone and the family on it. Yeah, that's really nice. We left the chapel, have entered a different mausoleum. This one is a lot bigger here in this cemetery. This is something else. Looks like there's another chapel. One of the things about walking through mausoleums, a lot of times they can be so quiet that you become very self-conscious about how loud your footsteps are. As we walk through here, it's going to look a little creepy because the lights are going to come on as we get closer to the actual corridor. So there's down there. Let's keep going this way into the darkness. I want to see if I can capture the light turning on. There we go. I was going to say it hasn't come on yet. Oh wow, okay. I feel like I'm in some sort of Blade movie. We now find ourselves in Holy Cross Catholic Cemetery, which is actually right down the street from where Wyatt Earp is buried. And we're making our way over to Joe DiMaggio's grave. Now, I thought it was going to be a little hard to find, but surprisingly, it was pretty easy. Maybe we're just getting really good at this, that when it comes to cemetery safaris, you know, searching for a grave inside a massive cemetery, it's become easier and easier. Now, of course, while we walk over here, I'm just going to tell you the story. Joe DiMaggio, baseball great. Everybody knows DiMaggio, especially if you know baseball. But you may not know, or maybe you do, he was actually married to Marilyn Monroe for a little over a year, or right around a year. They actually got married in San Francisco. Didn't last that long, and we all know the story of Marilyn. But right here, the final resting place of Joe DiMaggio. Let's take a knee and just take a moment. Aside from the plane overhead, it's actually pretty peaceful. You got the birds making their noises. I don't like birds. A woodpecker somewhere off in the distance, but other than that, it's pretty peaceful. And there's his name on top of his crypt, DiMaggio. Now, Jessica and I have said multiple times, many times, we are not fans of sports. Instead, we are fans of history. And his name, it's pretty historic.
I don't remember very much about him, aside from that he was a baseball player. He was very tall, and he married Marilyn Monroe for a short time, and other than that, he's always been spoken of as a very private person.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that people have left coming to pay their respects to DiMaggio is a baseball cap for the New York Yankees. And then if we look over here, there's a couple nicely placed baseballs. Now, for some reason, I thought that there'd be baseballs all over the place. And then it just hit me. In Atlanta, Georgia, there's a golfer in one of the cemeteries there, and there were golf balls everywhere. And I kind of, for some reason, thought there'd be the same thing. But this is nice. This is classy. And there's the marker. Joseph Paul DiMaggio, November 25th, 1914 to March 8th, 1999. Grace, dignity, and elegance personified. What you're looking at right now is the entrance to the main mausoleum. What does it say up there? Looking for the blessed hope and the coming of the glory of the great God and our Savior Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's a beautiful building, I'll give it that. Simple, but beautiful. As soon as we walk in the door, I'm already taken back. Let me look at this. Wow. Well, this is handy. They have a map of the mausoleum, the Holy Cross Mausoleum here. And we know that Abigail Fuller is in hallway N, which is right there. It runs to the entire left of the altar. So, right over behind that wall somewhere. Oh, wow. Look at this. This is truly breathtaking. So this place is massive on the outside, and it doesn't do it justice until you're actually in the mausoleum. I mean, look at this. The hallways look like they go on forever. Baby girl, we've been in countless mausoleums, but I've never seen anything that looks like this. This place is beautiful, gorgeous. Now, before we go explore the rest of the mausoleum, since we know where hallway N is, let's head that way right now. This is something else. Now let's talk about Abigail Fuller for a minute. She was the heiress to the Fuller family fortune. If you drink coffee, then, well, you know the name, Fuller. Sadly, she was murdered along with her friends and Sharon Tate back in 1969 by the Manson family. It changed the world. As we walk on down the hallway here, you can see right on the floor, that tile, it says N. So we're in the right spot. Did you find her? She's right down there? Okay, cool. Almost there. And there she is. The final resting place of Abigail Ann Fuller, 1943 to 1969. Pretty wild. Wow. We turned around, and this is the hallway that Abigail Fuller's final resting place looks down. Just this hallway in the mausoleum, just covered with flowers. Since we've moved to Hollywood, we've done quite a few different videos on the Manson murders and what happened. We visited Sharon Tate and her baby quite a few different times. This is the very first time that we got to visit or pay our respects to one of the other victims from the Manson family. And that has a very sombrous, very sorrowful feel right here, doesn't it? I mean, more than usual. I mean, I know we're standing in a mausoleum, but just knowing the history just kind of gets to you. Looks like we have one more hallway to walk down. And it's pretty cold in here. The mausoleum is air conditioned, even though it's been cold outside. Kind of shivering. Since we've arrived here in Colma, the Necropolis to San Francisco, obviously it's the city of the dead, but inside this place, this is the very first time that I actually felt like I was in a city of the dead. And it is freezing in there. I kind of feel like I can taste the mausoleum still. With that being said, Jessica's already outside. Let's go out there and into the sunlight and feel some warmth, some life. So what did you think of this mausoleum?
It's very pretty. It's very cold, almost like what you expect marble to be inside. No real flowers, which is strange for the temperature. But it is freezing. It is very, very cold.
Did you feel like you were walking through a city of the dead, like an underground? Especially the last bit of the mausoleum, it felt like I was...
Where the light wasn't coming through?
Right, yeah, it just felt like another world.
A little bit.
Now that is a cemetery gate, leading us right into Cypress Lawn Cemetery for the final leg of our City of the Dead tour in Colma, California. The birds are kind of freaking me out, to be honest. With that being said, thank you for joining us on another Grimm adventure, this time to San Francisco's City of the Dead, Colma, California, where there's more dead people than there are alive people. They're even still burying people here. Crazy, right? Now, we've only scratched the surface. We visited 3 cemeteries. We drove through. We pretty much spent all day exploring. But we filmed some and we shared with you guys some of the highlights of the different trip here, as well as some of the celebrity graves. There are others, more local notable figures to San Francisco, like the Emperor of San Francisco, and somebody else who got into a railroad accident whose head is somewhere scientific and his body, his headless body, is here in a mass grave of like 30,000 people. See what I mean? There's so much history here that we can keep coming back and just talking about certain things. But this was extra special because I've always heard about Colma, California, and I've always wanted to visit here. And even though it's just a cemetery, I never thought that I'd actually get to walk through the city of the dead. Happy Halloween.
Wherever I come, bad luck just comes my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. Bad luck's always coming my way.